turn around and you have really good broad shoulders, and especially when you have those like softball looking rear delts, it just looks impressive on stage. And rear delts were a big one that really came up later on in my training career. And I've talked on the show before about like the first time like that really kicked in for me. I got a critique from a female bodybuilder back when I was like 22 years old, and I wasn't doing anything really serious with lifting at that time. I just started getting into personal training, and you know, I asked her, I said, hey, would you critique my physique? And she says, she had this real thick accent, yeah, Adam, your shoulders are very weak. It just crushed my ego, you know? And I said, what do you mean? Because I used to do my shoulders, but she specifically said my rear delt. She says, you have no rear delts. You have this sloping back of your arm. It's just all tricep. The rear delt is actually one of the tougher muscles to really develop on people. In fact, we wrote a free guide on this last year on how to build your shoulders, and we point out 3, I think, of the most important things when developing your shoulders. And one of those 3 things is developing the rear delts. And that's totally free, so if you guys click the link in this video, you guys can get that sent right over to you for free. Just put in your email, we'll send it to you right away. But one of the main things, and one of the things that I contributed to that guide when we wrote it, was rear delt training. And the reason why that is when people do rear delt flies, their upper back takes over the movement. It's really tough for people to isolate that small of a muscle. The bigger, more dominant muscles in your upper back tend to take over the movement. So one of my favorite exercises to teach is a rear delt fly on like a cable machine. Hinge at the hips, make sure I have a nice neutral spine. My core is tight. I want to keep this in a fixed position. I don't want to rotate with it, so I want to stay nice and stable. My elbow is in a fixed position, and I'm going to fly out. And when I get to that out position, I'm thinking about the rear delt. I'm trying to squeeze it at that top and then resist it on the way back in. Take it all the way back till the weight almost comes set back down, and then fly out again. I put emphasis on that rear delt, squeezing the delt, resist it on the way back in, and then fly out. And I want to do this in a nice, slow and controlled. After I squeeze the rear delt, I want to resist the cable from coming back in. And when I'm resisting it, I'm trying to mentally concentrate on that rear delt. I recommend starting it before you do your other movements. Now, if I'm talking to a beginner who's never worked their shoulders, I'd always lean towards somebody going to a compound lift first, like an overhead press, an Arnold press. Those are going to be more beneficial for overall shoulder development. But if you're somebody who's been lifting for a while and you're specifically trying to develop the rear delts, and maybe you have good overall shoulders, but then you really lack the rear delt, then this is where I would recommend this as a great pre-exhaust, or doing this movement first before you go into your other big movements. When training shoulders, just like any other muscle, we always talk about frequency is king. So in that free guide, we actually recommend how you would do rep ranges and change that up. So download the free guide. You guys can read all the information in there. Just drop your email in there. We'll send it right over to you.